pattern chaining. So we're going to talk about pattern chaining using flat nine chords and diminished chords. And I actually speak about diminished chords in this video right over here. However, how can pattern chaining using flat nine and diminished chords work for you? Let's discuss. This is Gospel Progressions University, and I'm Chris Moses, where I'm here to help you and equip you as a church musician. So looking at diminished chords, we know that diminished chords are symmetrical, and the scale is symmetrical. Number one, we know that, for example, we have a diminished chord, which comes from a diminished scale. The scale itself is an 8-tone scale. The chord is a four-note chord, a diminished 7th chord. A diminished chord is just this regular diminished chord, C diminished and the C diminished 7th. Now, when we look at the scale, let's take the scale and break it down really simple. The scale itself is going to have two modes, and they're just going to be called mode 1 and mode 2. Mode 1 is C, D, E flat, F, G flat, E flat, B, A, B, and that back to C, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and back to 1. One of the first things that we notice is that these modes from this one scale repeats, but it repeats in a way where it just doesn't resolve. If you listen to it, it seems like it wants to keep going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. But here's the thing, as I lay a foundation here for you, it's not just to teach you, okay, scales, because you'll find a lot of videos, they'll talk about scales and they'll give you what the scales are, but to actually practically apply them, I'm going to show you that now. And I'm going to show you how to use patterns that you would find in symmetrical scales to chain them together with chords, with other chords, where they just repeat. Because we have this thing that when we play keys, a lot of beginners, a lot of people, something is a root. It means it has to be played down here because that's the only place. It's the root. We got to play it here. How do we know this is a C chord? Well, C is in the root. Not necessarily. C may not be played in the root. This is still a C chord. I can play this here. This is still a C over E, but it's still a C chord. The root note is up here, but it's just inverted. Now, let's take a look at the two diminished, the one diminished scale with the two modes. The first mode, we don't pay too much attention to that, only because there is one chord in it, or two. You have your diminished chord, and then you have your diminished 7th. Really doesn't do anything for us, It doesn't give you much options. The reason is, when you have a chord with a major third, which E would be E in this case, it gives you more options than just having a minor. Because after all, there's only so many places that you can go with it. So this is your first mode. But the second mode is what we're looking at. That's what we're going to build off. This is the more exciting one of the two. Okay, this is also known, I believe, as the diminished dominant or dominant diminished. The reason is because there is a dominant chord in there. Mode, half mode is the second one. So that's the mode that we'll be concentrating on. So we have automatically, we see our first chord is going to be a C chord. Okay, but now let's back up a spell. Now let's look at the entire thing. When we look at this whole scale, right, we'll take the first chord from the scale, and then we can play it on the left hand. We'll take the second chord up a half step. So if you notice, we're playing every single scale tone. Why? Because it's symmetrical. There are only 8 notes. So notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's it. But there's something special about this, because like the major scale, these notes all interact with one another, meaning they interact through harmony. They all work together. For example, if I'm playing all just white keys diatonically, I can play something very simple in a resolve and end up in C, and pretty much play anything get right back to C, because they all overlap. These harmonies work together with this 12 tet or 12 tone equal temperament. That's what we play in the West. And so now let's take a look at the first chord here of the second mode. So this is one chord that we have, the C diminished 7. So being that they all harmonize with one another, like I said, we have this as a dominant chord. We can take that now and stack them one on the other. So if we did this like we did just now, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's drop, say, these 3 notes and keep this here in our right hand. So what this gives us, because they're all harmonized with one another, and that's important, we have a C7 chord with a flat 9. And how you would make that up, well, how do you get a flat 9? Well, remember or understand, if you don't know this, when we're playing and we're building chords, the extensions go after the octave, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now it doesn't go back to 1 again, it starts over 8. After 8, 9, and so on. So we have 1, 2, 3, or 1, 3, 5, 7. All right, now we have a 9, and then we bring it back a half step and make that into a C major 7 with a flat 9. C major 7, flat 9. But that's not the chord we're looking at. The chord we're looking at is going to be the C dominant. And in order for you to have a 9 chord, you have to have the dominant here, or else it's going to be something else. So we have this here, and we're looking at the flat 9. And remember, if these all harmonize one with another, that means that this works, this works, this works, and this works, because they're all go together, almost like fraternal twins. So this is where your flat 9 would come in. So if they were fraternal twins, the flat 9 chord and the diminished scale would be related. They're not one and the same, but they're very close. The reason is because typically when we're transitioning from one state to another, when we're playing music, because there's a constant building of tension and a releasing of tension, the diminished chord itself wants to go somewhere. It wants to resolve. No one's going to play a song, at least I've never heard, like, you'll hear something like this. You may hear it in jazz, but typically, if you have every song that ends like that, there are going to be more songs that's going to end in, I'll play this. Are going to end in something like that, like a 4-5-1, 5-4-1 or something. But you'll rarely hear songs, that are popular songs going to be. And then it's going to just, resolve in a weird diminished chord. And the chord itself isn't weird, but it isn't typical to the ear. So diminished chords want to be resolved. They want to kind of just go home. And because the flat 9 is related to them, they want to go home too. So this is how this is usually works. So this is how we chain things together. We were looking for patterns. So when we see a pattern here, this is the entire second mode of the diminished scale, okay, for C diminished. All right, let's cut all these out like I said before, and we're stuck with this. But we realize something here. We have this here, and this wants to resolve. When we have minor chords or minor dyads, they want to resolve. So when we look at the diminished chord, we'll notice with this one or this one, okay, or this one, this one, this one, they all are symmetrical. They're built on one another, but what they're built on are minor dyads. A dyad is a 2-note chord. C minor dyad, E flat minor dyad, G flat minor dyad, and a A minor dyad. C sharp, a D flat minor dyad, E flat minor dyad. What did I just do? Oh, here. E minor dyad, G minor dyad, and a B flat minor dyad. So you have a diminished chord that has 2 things. They're stacked, 4 stacked, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 2 tritones. 1 tritone here, and another tritone here to make up that first diminished chord, diminished 7th, and 1 tritone here, and another tritone here, and here, okay? Well, there's just 2. So in summary, with this, diminished chords are made up of 4 stacked minor dyads or 2 tritones. Now, why that's important is because we start to see a pattern. Notice these numbers. You have 12-tone equal temperament. They're all divisible by 2. 8-tone scale. 4-note chords, all right? A dyad, 2, or 2 sets of, what we have here. I always mess this up here. Here and here. You have 2 sets of tritones, okay? So understanding that, we can do something with it, being that they're all related and there's a pattern there. So now let's take it to the next step now. Going back to this, when we have these 2 here, right? These 2 notes, or these 2 notes, or these 2 notes, let's keep the C and kind of just put it away for a hot second. these two notes here, they want to resolve. That's the thing about diminished chords and flat 9 chords. They both want to resolve. So we give them what they want. Where do they want to resolve? Just any old place? Is it going to just resolve anywhere? No. What we're looking for, one way to use them is this. The first thing we need to keep in mind is that we have this minor dyad here. It wants to go out, or as far as these two are concerned, it wants to resolve. One is forward and the other one is backward, meaning the E, in this case, wants to resolve a half step up to F, and the D flat wants to resolve down to C. So we'll have this. That's what it wants to resolve. The same thing with this one here. The rest of it here, the E and the G want to resolve up. The G wants to resolve up to A flat. E wants to resolve down to E flat. So E, G, okay? Then it becomes E flat, A flat. The last part of the chord, or 1, 2, yeah, what do we have here? Well, either one, we do this one or do this one. So let's go back to, let's see, all right, we'll go do this one here. The G flat and the A want to resolve to F and B flat, okay? And I'm just scratching the surface now. Same thing with this one, wants to resolve here. So in essence, anyway, I can just blind test. I can just blind test and just go here, C minor, or I don't know, try some D minor, right? D minor dyad, all right? We have that here, okay? That's part of a diminished scale because remember, minor, minor, and minor. So we have this, the two want to resolve out. And I'm pointing out because one goes up in respective to my position and the other one goes down. So this is how they resolve. So the D and F resolves to F sharp, D resolves to C sharp. And this is the same thing now with the minor chord. And the way these are chained, the way these are tied together is this. Let's go back now to our first chord. This here, and remove everything else because you're not typically going to play a chord with every note that's in the scale. But we will play this. Now, a popular or very prominent chord movement is when we take a flat 9 chord and resolve. The way we resolve is, like I said, we do this because it's made up of family of diminished chords. Diminished chords are family, but they want to be resolved at the same time. Just like the rest of the family, they all want to do the same thing. This wants to go here, that wants to go there, that wants to go there, and so on. Now, with jazz or with gospel, chords want to resolve either up a fourth, some C, up a fourth to F, or down a fifth. Same thing, because when you invert intervals, spaces between notes, that's what an interval is. C, up 4, C, down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So now we have a little bit of help. So now we know that, okay, these chords are resolving, all right? They resolve outward. That's what they want to do. They all are related. So that should clue us into something else I'm about to get to. But the flat 9 is what gives it the distinction. The flat 9 chord, we will use that to give us, to resolve to, man, we can resolve to almost anywhere we want to go. Why is that? Well, look at this here. The first thing we have here, right? Let's put all those chords back in. When you add, you have this regular C sharp diminished. When you put a C, all right, in the bass or the root, okay? We change the structure. We notice a C dominant. We notice a C dominant with a flat 9. So this wants to resolve, as a matter of course, this here, and it wants to go. If we would take the 5 chord, let's make this into a 5 chord. Remember, C sharp wants to resolve down to C, E wants to resolve up to F outwardly. So this. Did you catch that? So if we're looking at what we're resolving to, we have the C is the 5th of the chord, where F is the root. So in other words, with any diminished or any, I should say, minor dyad, when it resolves outward, the A, in this case, will resolve up to B flat, A sharp, and the F sharp, or F sharp, G flat, wants to resolve down to F. So in every case, every single case, don't matter where you are, we have the F sharp and the A. It doesn't matter where you are in the key. Like I said, it's gonna want to resolve outward. So this is gonna resolve down to the 5th of the next chord, and this is gonna be the root. So this is the root. The root is B flat. So this F sharp and A resolves to B flat. So if we want to do now a 5-1 chord progression, all we need to do is say, look, well, I want to take now, all right, this chord here, this dyad, and take it to F and go. That's how I want to resolve. But taking it back to our friend C over here, let's change something else. B now we know that this resolves to here. Okay, and if these are all related, because remember, just like C and C major, they're all related. They all harmonize with another. So it stands to reason now. Let's look at inversions. If we inverted this, right? We kept this to where it is. We took the C now and brought it up to E flat in our left hand. And we took with our right hand the C sharp, brought it to E, brought the E to G, the B flat or A sharp here, and then we took, moved that and came up to here to C sharp. What chord is this? Look at it carefully. We have a E flat chord with a 7, with a 9 that's flat. So remember, they're fraternal, they're related, they're different, but they come from the same parent, the diminished scale. Okay? So if we have that there, and if we have a pattern that repeats, it would stand to reason if we continued and we went to the next cycle, we F sharp, G flat, and we move the notes here and we invert it, we have G flat major, and we have the 7, and we have the 9, 8, 9, we have G 7 with a flat 9. So this is C7 with a flat 9, this is E flat 7 with a flat 9, this is G flat 7 with a flat 9, and these are all related. It would stand to reason then that I don't have to tell you what this is going to be. Let's come back here. A major, A 7th with a flat 9. Now, here's another way we can chain these things together. When you're looking at music, you're not looking, well, I have to learn this song because this song has nothing to do with the other song I just learned. I just made a live video. You only have 12 notes, just 12 tones, and it gets repeat at different octaves. They're the same thing. C, 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 and C. The thing is this, people look at it, man, I gotta learn this song. I need to find a tutorial. Pay attention, pay close attention, because as you listen to music, you won't have to keep running to tutorials. You'll just be able to glean from what you already know, because trust me, you got this. You already know this, okay? Now, we have our flat 9 chord, like I said. And if these are all related, that means these are all flat 9 chords. But if you take this now and you want to resolve here, so if this C resolves to C flat 9 resolves to F, would it be a stretch to say that maybe E flat 9, resolves to F as well? Or G flat 9 resolves to F? Or A flat 9, C7 flat 9 resolves to F? All right, where am I? Okay. That's the first key. Everything that resolves, I'll put this as an asterisk if I remember on the video. Everything that resolves in a diminished chord movement is going to resolve with the next brother or sister that's related to it. So if C is going to resolve to F, E flat is going to resolve to F, F sharp resolves to F, A resolves to F. That's how these things are chained together. So when you run out of ideas, just think who's related. You're playing a chord progression, you're going to go, and you're tired of doing this. 2, 5, 1. You might go, okay, well, let me get fancy with it. Depending on how you voice it, actually, yeah, depending on how you voice it, I might not voice it like that. I might voice it like this. I might go 2. No, that's not what I meant to do. So I may go 2, and then do something like this. Like I was gonna go we can even do, yeah, like I said, we have that chord here, and then we could go this chord here. Now, I want you to keep in mind too, there's several things. I'm just doing this on the spot now, but keep in mind as well that there's another thing I want to star, bold, italicize, is that when you resolve them, okay, you're going to resolve them in a way you can continue to use that 1-5 or 1-4 pattern. You can do that, and you can also resolve it to its relative minor, meaning this. Okay, let me do an example. If we did that chord movement here, we did a instead of doing like a 2, 5, all right, 1, we can do something like this. We can do 2 if you wanted to do another turnaround. Okay, it's resolved to its relative minor. because anything that you get that will resolve, any 2-5-1 chord progression that will resolve to the major chord will in turn, and I have to make a video on that too, resolve to the minor chord because they're related. When things are family, when things are related, it doesn't matter if you go through the front door or leave through the back or vice versa. It's still going to resolve where you want it, okay? But you can tell this too, because now, say for example, instead I didn't want to do now 5-1. Say I wanted to do A now. So I can do A to, okay? That is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So A 7 flat 9 will resolve to D minor, okay? Or D minor. I was gonna do D minor 11, but yeah, D minor, because that's the 5-1 or 1-5 or 1-4 movement, depending on which way you're going, ascending or descending. They invert the intervals. So keep that in mind, and this continues on. Not only can we do this, remember I said there are at least, if I didn't, there are at least 3 ways you can actually resolve this. So you want it to go from here. If you wanted to go from the C7 flat 9 to resolve to F, you could do C7 flat 9 because it's a passing tone. All right, to resolve there. Or you can do this, C7 flat 9, instead of going to the F or the D minor, why not go to F minor? You can do that as well. Okay, I'll give you a better example. For example, we did that. We said, okay, we kind of jumped around a little bit, but with this here, we can resolve to the F minor. The reason is because if we continue with that pattern of 1 resolving to 4 ascending or resolving to 5 descending, well, if we know F minor, what comes before F minor? Well, before F minor, before F, we know we have C, okay? So that resolves. Even if you didn't use a root all the way down here, you can listen and hear for the resolution. Typically with resolutions, they work in half steps. Like when we do suspended chords, like for example, your F is going to go down to a half step, or this, all right, or a step or a half step. But in this case, they resolve in half steps. Like I said before, these are all the chord tones and everything that I just said. Another way to look at it, they would resolve. Another way to look at it is say, you have C, 7 flat 9, E flat 7 flat 9, G flat 7 flat 9, and A 7 flat 9. Theoretically, it's not music fact, it's music theory. So theoretically, you can actually keep chaining and never end. In other words, if C goes to F, okay, C goes to F, C goes to relative minor D, C goes to F minor, well, we can take all of these now and relate it. Like, we can take this over here as a 5 chord here. We can go to A flat, either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We can say, hey, I want to do this and do it either resolve major or resolve minor, because this works too. You see? Or you can do it, resolve it to its relative minor as well. It's my dog shaking, and I'm not going to take that out. So here's the point here. You want to take all of these now and continue to experiment with it. Because if I have this here, remember, if we look at C resolves to F, or C resolves down a 5th. E flat resolves up a 4th, or resolves down a 5th. G flat resolves up a 4th to B, or down a 5th to B. And A resolves a 4th up to D and resolves down a 5th to D. So in other words, if they're all related, they're all fraternal twins, everybody is chumming with everybody else, they can relate to the next chord. So when you have this chord is going to resolve to B, because you can go down, resolve C to go down to B, because they're all family. They all go to the same place, and they're chained together by the fact of the tonality and how they resolve. Minor dyads resolve outward. So from that one point, that is the catalyst to get all of these to work together. I hope that's helped you. I get a little bit deeper in my free guide. Well, it's actually not the same topic, but it has to do with gospel, and it gets into some other things that would help you. It's called What do pro musicians know that you don't? And you can download it over at gospelprogressionsuniversity.com/what do pros know. Nope. I kind of don't know the name of my own website. It's called gospelprogressionsuniversity.com, and my dog is coming, /Gospel Keys Pro. And the name of the guide is What Do Pro Musicians Know? You want to go outside. What do pro musicians know that you don't? God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.